It's time for another episode of The Oil Stream with Dustin Nielsen and Tom Gazzola, presented by Popeye's Louisiana Kitchen.
What's going on, Oil Streamers? Nielsen and Gazzola with you once again. Happy Wednesday. Happy day after a loss to the Buffalo Sabres. We will get into that. And, you know, there's nothing like bouncing back from a loss with a delicious Popeye's chicken sandwich. And Tommy, you had a meeting. I was doing some work. My family's not home today. Elizabeth's on a day-long field trip, and Tammy's with her. So I skipped the dishes myself. A Popeye's chicken sandwich, my man. A Popeye's chicken sandwich. It says NP on there for no pickles. I'm not a big pickle guy, but
I like the pickle.
Yeah.
I like the pickle.
Yeah, I don't want to bite into it right now because I want it to stay nice and warm. Like I don't want to mess with it. So very excited, buddy.
Oh,
very excited. I
also
also got the Cajun fry poutine, which I've never tried.
How are you going to have dinner tonight? It's just going to take you through the rest of the day.
Yeah, I probably won't. Tammy's got a hair appointment tonight, so I'm solo with the kids. I probably won't even have time for dinner anyway, buddy. And I got a hockey game tonight. I usually don't like to eat much before a hockey game. So this is pretty much it for the day right here. So decided to get some Popeyes today. Yeah, no, it should be all right. Yeah. Hey, nice looking jersey you threw out there online, buddy.
Whoa, what jersey? I'm kidding. Yeah, there you go. So there's the full look. I know there was a lower res that popped out after I did the little tease, a month and a half ago. But that was it. And so I just had the high res, and I saw that the teams were teasing with Adidas, and I was like, well, this seems like a good time to just put it out there. Oops.
I do like it. Yeah. I just, the only thing that I just, until, you know, and we kind of knew the full thing was coming, I'd seen it, but I don't necessarily like their dark blues now, like the ones they had last night. And this is very similar, like from a base color. I'm just like, but I like the logo. I like the arms. I like what they've done there. I guess I just need to see it on the ice, Tommy, and then I'll be able to make a full assessment of this thing. I think for sure, personally, I will like it better than the ones that they wore last night.
Yeah. And those that they wore last night, this is their last year of them, as far as I understand. Yeah. These reverse retros that I unveiled to the world, although they're already out there basically, are also going to be just for this season, only a handful of times. It's this reverse retro 2.0 program. There's a new manufacturer coming in next year. And I know I teased and said that sounds like there's going to be a new third jersey coming up. And it's in the works. They do have something cooking in the lab, but it doesn't sound like it'll happen until at least 24, 25 after they get a year in with this new manufacturer. So for those that are like, I hate it, this sucks, why are they doing this? Well, they're doing it for one season. They're keeping those jerseys we saw last night just until the end of this year, and they're going to have these reverse retros just for this season, handful of times. And then in 2 years, they'll have a new, all new alternate. My understanding is they're going with a different concept. They're going to try some things, and we'll see what ends up coming out of the lab. But they're already cooking and brainstorming on something next for not next year, but the year after.
I like to imagine a hidden lab at Rogers Place that you need to like push through a wall to get to, and that's where all the jersey stuff gets done, buddy.
Yeah, that's exactly what happens. It's like the Bat Cave, but instead of like a laboratory, it's a guy.
It's like Iron Man's cave with all his different suits. It's just jerseys.
Yeah, no, and it's just a guy on a Mac with glasses and a coffee.
A nerd.
A graphic designer. Yeah.
All right. Lots to get to, obviously, with last night's hockey game. Let's dive into it. Is the Boston Pizza Appetizer. Hey, we have details. Next Tuesday night, 6 o'clock, we'll get rolling. Boston Pizza, Y Road, Sherwood Park. So if you listen to the Oil Stream out in Sherwood Park, we've done a couple of these, and we did them at noon, and the turnout was pretty good, but we did have some people say, like, hey, guys, why don't you do this after work? More of us can probably come. Yep. So we're going to try one after work, Sherwood Park, Y Road, next Tuesday, 6 o'clock. Swing on by. We will be there. Depending on their internet situation, we might go live to tape again with another episode of the Oil Stream, but should be a pretty good time, buddy, and I'm looking forward to getting out to Sherwood Park.
I am too. These first two that we've done, we've had a nice gathering, and Tara's been great. It's been fun working with BP, and I think this is going to be great, especially doing this after work thing. You know, you catch the post work rush. You might want a little bit of a social sparkler to wind the night down. And I'm sure there's some great specials that'll be available as well. So this is going to be awesome, Dusty. It's been a lot of fun, and I look forward to continuing this in all the locations we go to. And the listeners and viewers we get to meet have been awesome.
All right, Tommy, not great last night. We talked about it on the Smash Hit Nielsen show this morning. You had it on the post-game show last night on TSN 1260 as well. What was the most concerning thing about last night's loss to you? What jumps off the page the most?
Execution. I think they're going to round into form, and I think at some point, we're going to be talking about a team back in the swing of things, but it's just like the lack of execution. Like they were missing 5-foot passes in tight. And I remember them working on things like that in training camp early on, working in tight spaces, quick twitch, muscle memory type of plays around the net. And it kind of worked in the Nugent Hopkins goal late. But I think just the lack of execution, and a thing that I would assume is pretty frustrating for fans, is looking off great opportunities. Bouchard had this nice lane to the net last night, and he passed it into the slot where nobody was except for a couple of Sabres. It just slid through the slot. Like, he has a great shot, and he could have fired it. And if the first shot didn't go in, if there was a rebound there were a couple guys already around the net. So those are the things that concern me the most. And you know what? Like the turnovers at the blue line are very frustrating. Those
are killers. They're killers.
They're killers, and no coach in any level of hockey likes turnovers at.
There's a reason
line.
why they always say you don't turn it over at your blue line, and you don't turn it over at the other blue line.
And we saw it last night twice. It was Leon Draisaitl. He's better than that. I think that'll get cleaned up, and they ran into a hot goalie. But the lack of execution, the sloppiness is kind of what I'm like. It shouldn't be like that.
That's what it is. I mean, I was going to say sloppiness. You kind of started with lack of execution and brought it back around to sloppiness. I was going to say sloppiness just in general. Like it's not an effort thing. Like the effort's there. It's not like these guys are going through the motions. Even in the slow starts, it's not like they've come out and they're not skating. I don't think anybody's criticized the effort of this group so far. It's just almost like the mental focus isn't on point. Like they're not, for lack of a better hockey term, they're not bearing down on some of the plays that they should be bearing down on. I mean, when you have McDavid, Draisaitl, and Kane combined for 10 giveaways and no takeaways in a hockey game last night, like those are the guys who are going to have the puck on their stick the most. I get it. So they're the guys who usually have a lot of those types of giveaways, but that's a big swing. 10 giveaways between Kane, McDavid, and Draisaitl, half of them Leon Draisaitl. I don't want to say they're not taking it seriously enough because, from a work ethics perspective, they certainly are. I just don't know if they're focused enough on what they should be doing with the puck. I just think they've been, I think they've been sloppy with the puck. I think that's the major issue. I don't think many parts of their game overall are sloppy, but I think they've been super sloppy with the puck so far, and it's led to some breakdowns going the other way that they just certainly haven't been able to operate with so far. So, I mean, that's something that should be able to be cleaned up here relatively quick, don't you think?
I do think. Part of me, too, just wonders when this team is going to go and take games. Like,
yeah,
the really good teams in the sport of hockey, they just go in and they mop the floor with lesser opposition. And I know this is the National Hockey League. I know that these are the best players in the world. But even in the NHL, the best teams go in there and they dictate and dominate. It just feels like the Oilers go in and kind of assess things slowly and
they wait to see how it's going to be, right?
Yeah.
And then they can elevate the game to the level that they need, essentially. Yeah. It's kind of what it looks like.
It would be great if they were proactive as opposed to reactive. That's a better way to sum it up.
All right, that's your Boston Pizza Appetizer. Taking a look back at last night's game. There's lots of other things to discuss as well, but Appy Hour daily from 2 to 5, and then again from 9 until close at all of your Boston Pizza locations. You can order online at bostonpizza.com or download the BP's app as well. And join us, make plans to pop by and join us 6 o'clock next Tuesday, Sherwood Park, Y Road, Boston Pizza. Very much looking forward to meeting a bunch of you out at that location. All right, Tommy, a couple other things to obviously follow up here. Let's get to Dylan Holloway. I mean, really tough lesson learned last night. I didn't think it was as I didn't think it was a dirty hit. I mean, it's kind of a cheap shot nowadays because you just don't see that happen really in many leagues. But I thought it was a little bit of a cheap shot that was executed perfectly, I guess is how I would describe it.
Ilya Lyubushkin hits, and he hits hard. And I mean, I guess targeting or picking his spot, like he's good at that. Like, I'm sorry, Warren Foegele teed that one up for Lyubushkin and put Dylan Holloway in the trolley tracks. Like it was tough. Like live, you're like, oh no. And you knew right away that wasn't good. You saw, I admire Holloway. He got up right away. He went right to the bench. TD Force took him down the tunnel, and that was his night. That was a big hit from a strong defenseman. To me, I don't think Foegele should have put Holloway in that position. I don't know why Fogel's making that outlet pass, how he wound up with that puck, but I feel bad for Holloway. Like, that's a tough lesson. He's had a couple of tough lessons in his first 3 NHL games in the regular season. And hopefully that doesn't scare him or scar him or anything like that. And he comes back okay when he's ready. But to me, Dusty, that's a classic suicide pass. And Warren Foegele jumped in right away. I think he knew and had a bit of guilt on his mind.
Oh, shit. That's on me. I better slide in here. The next time a puck comes up the boards like that, I would think Holloway goes like this. Quickly checks and then makes a play on it. Like, that's just a tough spot for a kid. That's not
right. He caught it on his backhand and he looked up ice.
Yeah.
Maybe he turns and opens up the next time. And it's something that happens so fast that hard to react that way. And it's, it's easy to look back and go, well, this is what could have been done different. This is what could have been done different. But man, oh man. Yeah. Maybe a shoulder check, but Lyubushkin came from the middle of the ice too. So yikes.
Big time hit. Huge pop. And I still don't mind seeing those in the game today. So a tough spot though for Holloway to be in there. Hopefully he's going to be okay. Tommy, he only played 8 minutes each of the first 2 games. Like, where do you think this was trending, I guess, pre-injury for Holloway? What have you made of the way they've used him so far?
I think, and I feel that giveaway early in the game against Vancouver kind of set Dylan Holloway on this path where, the coaching staff looked at it and go, oh, geez, that's not good. And they said, maybe we have to dial him back. They get down in that first game. They claw their way back. They only use him for 8 minutes. The second game, same thing. They go down. They need to load up their lines. And I think that's part of like insulating him a little bit. They've taken him out of the top 6, put him into the third line hole there on the left side. And I feel like it's going down a path where it'll potentially lead to going back to the AHL for a little bit, but I don't think for very long. I think this guy will be back soon, or maybe he comes back from injury and they use him. But yeah, it feels like they're insulating him a little bit. And I don't think that this current situation with the hit and the injury does him any favors, obviously.
Point you brought up today when we were talking a little bit earlier on TSN 1260, Tommy, was the fact that this team is in a tough spot from a roster perspective. I mean, they had to open this season with one roster player below the limit. Yesterday, they decided to go 11-7, which, they will continue to do, but they didn't really use Niemelainen much. Holloway goes out. They basically were running 3 lines in the third period. Shore and Puljujarvi kind of alternated a couple of times on the third line, and that was about it. Is this something that it's essentially going to have to continue, or does something actually give to get a full roster up here?
I looked through that locker room yesterday after the optional skate, and I'm like, boy, there's a lot of empty stalls in this room, and that's not a good problem to have. I think at some point it'll have to give because, like you mentioned, opening night where you're playing a man short because of cap complications, you don't have enough guys on the roster and injuries. And then a couple nights later, you lose a guy and you're playing 11-7 already. Like, I think the focus will continue to grow on this 21-man roster. I know that the Oilers aren't the only team dealing with a shortened roster, but it's not good. You're basically tying one hand behind your own back.
Yeah.
So I do think something will have to give. I do think the breaking point will just be Jesse Puljujarvi being traded. Unfortunately, they backed themselves into this corner because playing with 21 guys, we're a week and a day into the season, a week and 2 days into the Oilers season, and this is already rearing its ugly head. Not sustainable.
No, this is on Ken Holland. I mean, he built this roster this way with no cap space. And like, for example, if Holloway can't go tomorrow and he can't go on the LTIR, I mean, what are they supposed to do in that situation? Because well, that's the thing. Like, I think I guess what they would have to do is send a D-man down, bring up a forward. But then that's a nightmare. This is a nightmare.
It is.
They got to get it sorted out. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, Matthias Janmark should be playing for this team right now. Philip Broberg should be playing for this team right now. It's a mess already.
All right. Well, we'll see if anything gives on that over the next couple of weeks or so. Let's dive inside the numbers for Coolbet. And no game tonight for the Oilers, obviously. But one thing I wanted to discuss is that I was all hot and horny on Evander Kane over 32.5 goals this year, Tommy.
I know.
I thought maybe he'd take a run at 40. Hasn't scored yet. Has had a ton of chances. Hasn't been able to bury. Had an empty net that he passed on to get McDavid that hat trick in the opener. Maybe it's a little bit of a curse there when you pass on an empty net. Should I be concerned about my over 32.5 for Evander Kane goals? Are you ready for that yet?
No, not yet. I think he still gets the over, and I was with you on the over, but I didn't think he.
You were just on the over, though.
33, 34, somewhere around there. He's around it, though, and I think he's one of those examples of the sloppiness where it's not clicking. It's almost but not quite, and he's one of them. But like I said, Hyman, even Puljujarvi with some opportunities, they're right around it. They just haven't been able to convert. And at some point, one of those is going to go in for all of those guys. And then the floodgates will open up, I think. And it'll come with hard work. It'll come with determination and a willingness to jump out at teams right at the start of the game, as opposed to just kind of easing their way in, which is not a good recipe.
If they could play the first 15 minutes like they played the last 15 minutes, they would be 3-0, and it wouldn't even be a sweat. They just, for some reason, don't crank it up until they're like, oh, man, we almost don't have any time left. We better get going. I don't know how you get that start. It's got to come at some point. Maybe a really, really, well, I was going to say maybe a really, really good team like Carolina wakes them up early, but look what happened against Calgary. So I don't know if I can say that either.
If they beat Carolina and have a good game, I think the theme that's going to pop up like it did last year was, boy, they really played to the level of the opposition. And that's something that's stuck on them because they've earned that reputation. If they beat Carolina, if they beat St. Louis or Pittsburgh.
All right, well, that's going to do it for another episode of The Oil Stream. We'll be back with another episode on Friday, breaking down that game against Carolina. We'll see how that sorts itself out. I've got this delicious Popeyes chicken sandwich that I'm going to dive into. Then we've got some CFL meetings we got to get to right away. So, Tommy, take us home, buddy. Let's get out of here.
All right, as Dusty gets set to chow down on that delicious Popeyes chicken sandwich, I highly encourage you to like, share, subscribe. And make sure you keep those hands nice and clean after you have one of those. Oh, that looks so good. I
can't wait.
Smash that thumbs up button, but make sure you do it after washing your hands.
See you later, buddy.